Welcome back to the discussion, Generating More Value for Your Data, sponsored by Commvault and NetApp on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guests today are Richard Breakiron, the Senior Director for Strategic Initiatives for Federal at Commvault, Dave DeVries, the Senior Director for Strategic Initiatives for State, Local, and Education, also for Commvault, and Kirk Kern, the Chief Technology Officer at NetApp Americas. Gentlemen, before break, we talked about the idea of data protection. We talked about this idea of the cloud and why we're in a hybrid cloud world. All this really is leading down to this idea of more capabilities, better capabilities. And then we got to talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning. Agencies need to understand their data, have to take advantage of the cloud, start you really getting the full benefit of AI and ML. Kirk, lead us off a little bit and offer why these two things, these two steps kind of have to happen before agencies can kind of jump into the AI ML pool.
Yeah, so in AI and in data analytics as well, data management is almost as important as the AI technology itself. What that means is that a significant amount of time and labor needs to go into curating these training data sets for machine learning or labeling data in the data lakes if it's a deep learning system. And so, what we find is every agency has vast amounts of data and everyone would like to generate new or better information from it. And what we find is sometimes the policy gets involved where it's controlled by policy security restriction on how it's used. But I think universally what we're finding is that the government is opening up access to data, and it's certainly a growing trend. So there are steps in that direction to make secure access and define legal data use a good investment. And, making data useful is one of the main goals of the Office of Management and Budget as part of the OMB's new federal strategy. In fact, there's two main components of that strategy, and it resolves around practices, and those practices for helping agencies to recognize the benefit from the value of the data that they have by building a data culture, right? So back to that process, they're actually building a culture where they cultivate that information. They're working to change government and the way they manage and protect that data. And then lastly, they're working on new ways to promote efficient and appropriate use of that data.
The data strategy is a fascinating document in many ways. So let me turn over to Richard now and bring you into this so who's doing it well? When you talk to your customers, where are they in that continuum of understanding how the value of their data, how to protect their data, how to use their data, how to take advantage of their data?
So I think almost everybody's doing it really, really well. I think when I look at the DoD in particular, I see a lot of great benefits that they have always looked at AI and machine learning. You mentioned at the very outset, volume, velocity, variety. You have more data being thrown at you than you can manage. Some way or another, you've got to integrate machine learning, artificial intelligence to reduce some of the white noise. You're seeing the advent of the value of data. Kirk said it right. I'll be honest, sometimes people have always viewed the backup and recovery, the archives as, oh, this is a boat anchor, I got to pay a bill for it. But now all of a sudden the light went on. Oh my gosh, I can mine that data. That data is full of rich intelligence. And now I have the AI and machine learning that makes that happen. So DoD is doing it well. VA is doing it great. Oh my gosh, talk about COVID now. We have real examples now where we're supporting active research of data as it is occurring on the COVID crisis. We actually see direct use of capabilities in looking at what trends they're seeing, what we are learning real time. So I think that it is that value of data. I see it across all of the agencies. And they also, I'll be honest, there's also a learning process going on. There's some hiccups on saying everybody's got to work remotely. Hey, it wasn't necessarily scaled like that to begin with. So thanks.
Dave, you get the last word here. You've seen it from the civilian side, you've seen it from the DoD side. What are the things people should keep in mind as they kind of continue to move forward with data?
Number one, there are owners of the data. There are people who are responsible for the collection of that data, for the curating of that data. I think those lines are somewhat starting to blur now. So take, for example, this whole COVID thing. We had a structure of a university, and a university had several different colleges or campuses to it. Each one of those may have been its own entity before, and now they're looking at saying, now as we do this online education with students more and more, it's just not just the part-time students. How do I share my data? Because now suddenly it's not the student going to the classroom, it's the classroom being there with the data that supports it from across the university, and the university as a whole is responsible for sharing that data out and storing it and safeguarding it. And you're seeing that across the agencies. You know, when they do those nightly reports on COVID or some other things there, it's not just one agency talking about it. It's them sharing that data between the Health and Human Services, between other entities that track the population of people and the tracking of what's going on at our borders and stuff. It's across the whole thing. And that's the exciting part of this thing here. The point is with AI and machine learning, it's got to be talked about, it's got to be shared. And two, those decisions and the use of those things have got to be understood and talked about by the leadership at the top. Things will happen when leadership gets involved. If they gain some new appreciation of what that data can tell them, they will drive more and more uses from it there.
All right, very good. Unfortunately, we are out of time for today. This has been a fascinating conversation, so let me thank my guests. Richard Breakiron is the Senior Director for Strategic Initiatives for Federal at Commvault. Dave DeVries is the Senior Director for Strategic Initiatives for State, Local, and Education, also for Commvault. And Kirk Kern is the Chief Technology Officer at NetApp Americas. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Generating More Value for Your Data, sponsored by Commvault and NetApp on Federal News Network. I've been your host, Jason Miller. For more in this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Data Management Month.